Welcome to Friday night's video in our Master Series. I do believe this is the 128th video in our Master Series and the second video in our Mastering phase. So this is going to be a really quick video, but I wanted to really reiterate what we had talked about and remember the 3 steps forward and 1 step back to do as good a job as possible. If you remember, as I've gone through this series, I do something and I might sometimes go back and look at the original tracks coming through those groups to the buses that, the subgroup buses and the buses and the processing buses. I'll go all the way back and come back through after I do something. If I'm doing something, to go back and check and see if it can be done farther back, if it's better to be done there or to do it here, and once I'm done, to go back and recheck that might cause me to rechange some actions I've done or processing I've done on any number of tracks or buses or subgroup buses or group processing buses or whatever. So really keep that in mind. It's a huge thing that I preach to really help you do a good job, and you can do that in mastering also, because it will really help you to really refine what you're doing instead of just thinking everything is done from this point forward, that I can't go back and go, oh, wait a minute about that, and what about that, now that I've done this, what about that might have changed that, or it might have changed this. It's a huge thing of getting done with that, checking it, and then going back. Next step, then back and looking through it, and then the next step. I reiterate that. You might get tired of hearing of it, but it's a huge thing. Next, also compare well. Bypass on and off processes you're doing, and an A/B comparison. Between doubling tracks or whatever. To compare whatever you're trying to do against whatever you haven't done to some other track or whatever. Those are huge things to really hear. As you get really good at that, you'll be really able to hear really minute changes that you're doing that can make a world of difference. Little minute changes here and there and there and there start to add up to make a really good mix. And so sometimes it may not seem like much, but it adds up. It all sums out in the end. And sometimes little changes that you really want to take close attention to, A, B, and off and on, and bypassing on and off and really walking away and coming back and rechecking it, and comparing A/B comparison, duplicating tracks, and with ones you're working on and ones you're not working on, to see, really be able to hear really minute details and changes that you're doing, because all those things sum up in the end, and it can really help you get your ear so it starts to really be able to hear different changes of things you're doing no matter what you're trying to do. So really keep that in mind. It's really important when we're getting into the mastering, because in here you're supposed to be a master audio engineer, so you really need to be paying close attention to what's going on no matter what you're doing. And also analysis tools. Really get used to using your analysis tools, whether they're direct or we're sign chaining like we talked about, taking one version against one that you're formatting, or so you can see them compared against each other, to be able to really visualize minute changes, as well as hearing it, being able to really use your analysis tools well to really see what's going on. Sometimes you'll be able to hear things really well, and sometimes you'll visualize it before you hear it, and sometimes you'll hear it before you visualize it, and vice versa, back and forth. So they're both, besides your ears, all your analysis tools, and being able to use them well, direct and side chaining them and things like that for comparison and visualizing what's happening, are hugely important. They are huge tools, or they wouldn't exist, bro. So it's not just your ears. Those tools can really help you to really pinpoint things that are going on. Sometimes you hear something, you don't know it's the third harmonic, off the fundamental of the oboe, but your analysis tools will tell you that. You're hearing something, but you don't know exactly what it is. As you get better, you might. but it can really help you pinpoint things, get really used to using them well and understanding all they do, and automation. Even when you're mastering, sometimes I'll take mixed down files or master wave or mixed down files, into a session that, I'm, working on that mix down, that each section has its own separate needs. Does that make sense? So where this guy might have sent me a mix down, or I done a mix down, if it's my own stuff, not as much. But if it's somebody else's, then I'm hearing, well, in the chorus, it needs this. And in the verse, it needs this work done to sweeten the mix. And in this section, it needs this done to sweeten the mix. And I'm actually cutting their mix up and dealing with each section of the mix as it has its own needs to sweeten it up and make it and to master it. So, that goes the same here. And same, you can be automating all kinds of tools, from equalization, spatialization tools, all the things that we talked about when we were doing our sweetening at the end in the last phase when we were doing group processing. Keep that in mind, that each section may have its own needs. And sometimes your mastering suite may not be able to accompany you with that. Your mastering suite might not be able to do all that, and you might have to take that mix down into a song file and work on it there, and then mix that down and take it in your mastering suite and maybe do some really fine tuning, mastering, sweetening on the whole mix after you've dealt with it as its own separate needs in each separate section. So those are huge things, and the more you get to this point that you want to be a mastering engineer, these things are hugely important. So you really need to focus on those and make notes about those, especially if you've gotten to this point. There's whether or not that you're a master audio engineer and you've really went to school or anything like that, or you've studied a lot, that I've tried to make this series and this mastering phase as untechnical as possible. And so if you don't, take my advice of what to go study and look around on my, on my YouTube channel and, make contact with me to help give you some direction. If you don't have the time to do that, or you don't have the ability to do that, or you just haven't done that, that I try to make it that a lot of these things are really going to help you, to where whether or not you have the knowledge base and an experience, that these things are really going to help you move forward. Sometimes really slowly, as you get better and more experience and build up a knowledge base, that those things will move along faster and faster, but still they're hugely important concepts to help you, become, a master engineer or a master producer, a producer that, is really understands well what's going on and knows go back and check things and do things well, and, and check these things, and they're huge. So, besides that, being a master engineer, I really suggest you study. I really did a lot of study of acoustics, the science of sound, DSP, psychology, instruments themselves, music itself, analyzing music and analyzing sound and using DSP and things like that and understanding it. I did it for like 12 years. So this whole channel is made up, and this master series is made up to try to help you get over that and try to make things as simple as possible for you to be able to get this done, with practice. And practice, if you follow some simple procedures, but the knowledge doesn't hurt, bro. Let me tell you that. That is for sure. So I really wanted to reiterate those things, to really make them important in your workflow and your checklist, to help you really go forward. And when you're mastering, you're really going to need it, because some of these boys have been doing this a while, and if you want on the radio and you want to send your stuff to Sony, that all these people that are doing that didn't just fall up the turnip truck on their head and somebody gave them some faders to push around. And a lot of that kind of stuff is going to help push you over the top to where you make it and you can put your stuff out there as radio ready in whatever kind of genre you're trying to produce in, or whatever arena you're trying to produce in. That those things are really going to be helpful, as well as the knowledge and the wisdom, which hopefully that as I go, that I'm putting as much of that I can as on my channel and in these series that I'm putting together. So peace, hope, love. I hope you enjoy this master phase, and in the next video we'll start getting set up to do mastering. See you in the next video.